Hello everyone, welcome to Just Invest Today, and today I got a good video for you guys. Today we're talking about Mohnish Pabrai and his new interview that he did with the London Business School. And in this interview, I think maybe he gave a nice big strong hint that he's probably still buying Alibaba shares, or he's thinking about it at least. I'm not sure if that slipped, but whatever. We're gonna go through the video, we're gonna watch it together, see what Mohnish Pabrai is talking about. And guys, we gotta remember, when we're watching these videos, it's good to keep watching this, implement, kind of dig in all the frameworks that Mohnish Pabrai is talking about that, and make sure we keep it on top of our heads. So I want to get into the two most important parts I found in this video that I liked in this interview, so let's get into it.
Yeah, good evening or good afternoon, Mohnish. Thanks so much for your time. This is a real privilege. Big fan as well. Two questions, if I may. I'd love to hear you just rationalise your recent investment in Alibaba. And then secondly, beyond talking stocks, how do you think about portfolio construction and specifically position sizing?
Yeah, so I will duck the Alibaba question.
Sure.
We will, maybe if Rashid has me back, or maybe one of your successors, Rashid, has me back in a few years, and we don't own Alibaba, though I think we may own Alibaba for a while.
You see that? We're going to be owning Alibaba for a while. Guys, we know what Alibaba is about, what it's doing. Look at this article right here. It talks about how Alibaba is going to help spending $1 billion for cloud-like startups. So it's going to help people like starting up their new businesses and new like tech businesses in different markets. So Alibaba Group Cloud Division has pledged $1 billion to support startups in Asia. And this is important because Alibaba's cloud business has been growing 37%. That is crazy, guys. We gotta remember, like Amazon. Amazon grew like crazy, but then now the cloud business is like outgrowing the original business with e-commerce. So that's exactly what's happening with Alibaba right now. So you gotta take that into account, that Alibaba hasn't even got started in their cloud business. It's just getting started, just a tip. And then look, Alibaba Cloud is opening its first data center in the Philippines by the end of this year and will build innovation center in Malaysia. It's currently operating in 75 so-called availability zones in 24 regions. The firm has also launched a third data center in Indonesia. Guys, Alibaba is growing at a crazy rate. That's why Mohnish Pabrai is saying he's going to be holding the stock for a long time. He's not going to touch it. And this is exactly what I'm going to do with Alibaba stock. I'm going to trim probably some of it when it gets to a good price. But yeah, but the thing about with Alibaba is we still gotta be cautious, because there is gonna be tension maybe in the future with U.S., China, Canada, China. So we always gotta worry about that a little bit. So you guys gotta keep your eyes open and understand that huge risk that's there. The investment thesis will always be there. That will go away. The only risk is the government risk and how China and U.S. tensions like end up in 5 years, because that can change very fast. So that's a warning sign for Alibaba.
Don't own it like GrafTech. I'd be very happy to talk about it. At this point, still adding to our position. So I don't like to talk about things that we are.
So he's still adding.
Which are in the portfolio and actually going through some change and such as we speak. So, but I must like it. If I'm buying it, I must like it. That's all I can say, and such. I think it's a business worth studying. It's a business worth diving into and studying. I think it's a fascinating business. And I'm sorry, what was your second question? Did you have a second question?
Portfolio construction, specifically. How you think about position sizing.
Yeah. So I think on that front,
This is going to be a good question on position sizing, and this has always like kind of been in my mind, because right now, I feel like Charlie Munger has always preached 4 positions, right? But I feel like 10 positions is the key, right? Because at least like when you're doing your research and when you're doing your stock picking, like four positions, like two can go bad. Like you just don't know. Like investing is all about chances, right? Like the probability. So even though you did all your research, you did amazing, it doesn't matter. That there's still always a possibility that something can go wrong, your investment can go bad. But if you invest in 10 strong companies, like Warren Buffett had like 8 companies, 9 companies in 1992. So I think that's a well-rounded portfolio if you have 10 strong companies, because at least when you get more than half doing really really good, it'll make up for the loss. But if you have 4 and maybe 3 do bad or 2 do bad, like will that make up for the other 2? Like I don't know. But when you have 10, it's almost guaranteed that you're gonna have some huge winners in there.
To talk to someone like Charlie Munger, he would say that, 4 diverse stocks carefully selected is all you need. Of course, the operative word was carefully selected. And Munger also says that if you lived in Peoria, Illinois, which if you guys have never visited Peoria, Illinois, might be a fun place to visit sometime, and you owned the Ford dealership in town, and you owned the McDonald's franchise in town, and you owned the best Class A office building in town, and the best apartment tower. Those were the 4 assets you own. And you don't need to own all of them. You could own partially. You could have a 10% stake in the Ford dealership, for example. So these could be partial ownerships. He says that you would likely do extremely well over the years and live a pretty happy life as an investor. And someone looking at that from the outside would say, well, you are geographically so concentrated. So even though you're in 4 different industries, 4 different asset classes, it's all in the same geography. And that is true, but I think that if you look at most entrepreneurs, they don't even have 4 bets. 98% of their assets is 1 bet. And they don't have sleepless nights. They're pretty comfortable with single bet and a lot of the eggs in one basket. So I think that if you know what you're doing, if you don't know what you're doing, please index. Pretty honorable way to go through life, and you still get the power of compounding. But if you know what you're doing,
And that's what I recommend for most people is to like index. Like 95% of people that are not sophisticated or understand how to like make an investment, they should index. And guys, I just did another video on like my advanced thinking for investing in the index, and you should check it out. You got to tell me your thoughts on it because I have a different approach, maybe the index funds. So yeah, let's continue this video.
then it seems like insanity to own 30 stocks or even 20 stocks. I mean, why would you put money?
And this is another thing. He says it's insanity to earn 30 stocks or 20 stocks. But the people who did do it, there were people that did it that were successful, like Peter Lynch and Walter Sloss, and there was a couple more. So it's not insanity, but maybe like because back then you were able to do that, you were able to find a lot of cheap companies. So I'm not sure if you can still do that today, but you never know. Remember, everyone has different methods of investing, right? So it might not be it might be insanity for some, for like someone like Mohnish Pabrai, because why would you put money into your 15th best stock when you have, right? When you know this number 1 stock is gonna do crazy, right? But you just remember it's all about probability. You don't know for a fact. The business still has to perform and do its duty, but that's still a probability. You don't know 100% guaranteed.
Buffett would say, why would you put money into your 27th best idea instead of your 3rd best idea? So that just makes no sense. And the idea that you would actually understand 27 businesses as well as each of them, or equally, is unlikely. So there's circle of competence issues, there's a depth of understanding issues that come in. And so So from my point of view, the answer has been, at least in Pabrai funds, has been to go with like a 10 by 10 portfolio, 10 stocks, 10% each seems like a good medium. In my personal portfolio, sometimes I've had one stock, and sometimes, and I don't think I've had many occasions when there have been more than 4 or 5 positions. In the Takshina Foundation, where we have, thankfully, we've now got significant assets. I think we've got north of 20 or 22, 23 million in marketable securities in Dakshina. It's invested in a very concentrated way. I mean, I don't think most of it is in more than 3 positions. And of course, in Dakshina, the idea there is that even when we do our work, the places where we spend our money, it's the exact opposite of what we do in investing. In investing, we never swing for the fences. Or in British terms, we don't go for hitting sixers. Okay, we try to get one run here and one run there. That's what we're trying to do. But in investing, in philanthropy, what you want to do is just go for sixers every time. Okay, because that's the only way you can possibly move the needle on these really tough problems, is be willing to fail. And so anyway, in Dakshina, we're very willing to fail when we spend the money. And I don't think it's that risky to have 3 or 4 well-selected stocks in Dakshina, and likely to work out, and likely to help us do even more good.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so this is the question I really want to get to. The final question of this interview with the London Business School was very important. This is very key. He basically talks about his returns, his market returns, and if he knew what he knew before, he would have been extremely, beyond his imagination, like wealthy, if he actually knew what he knew now about learning from Nick Sleep and thinking like a private, like think like you're the owner of the business. And I remember someone actually I'm going to get into it, but like let's go into the next part of the video where he talks about Nick Sleep.
I think that I would say that reading Nick Sleep added a layer on top of what I understood from Munger and Buffett, even though I think a lot of the Nick Sleep lessons were embedded in the Munger and Buffett lesson, but they were not as explicit about it, so probably took some me listening to another person to really understand it. But the idea is that you think of it as if you're a business owner. So Rashid, I'll give an answer, but we are past that.
See, he's just saying, think of you when you own a business as a business owner. And that's what Nick Sleep did to Mohnish Pabrai. He understood that, like, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett were, like, preaching the exact same thing as Nick Sleep. But he could never really connect it, that never, like, seeped deep into his framework. Because Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett have been preaching the same thing, just hold your stocks. Think of it like you're buying a private business. Warren Buffett says that every time. Like when he buys a business, he thinks about it like he's buying the whole thing and he's gonna be the owner, right? So Nick Sleep just kind of like put it into words that made Mohnish Pabrai get it, right? And then someone else told me about, think of it like it's your retirement fund, and that changed my mind a lot. So when you think of your stocks as a retirement fund, you're not gonna touch it. You're gonna leave it alone. You're not even gonna look at it. How often would you look at your retirement fund? Almost never. Maybe every 6 months they give you an update, or every 3 months they give you an update to see how it's doing. But you don't touch it. You just keep putting money in there. Think of it like that. So.
Is that okay for you guys? So if any of you guys, need to leave, please feel free. I won't take it personally, but we're going over, and I don't want to be disrespectful if you've got other commitments. But I was just actually just earlier today I was looking at this. Is that in 1995 when I first started investing, I had $1 million that I had gotten from a sale of my business, a portion of my business. And I had just begun to learn about Buffett and such. I decided I would invest this money in the equity markets and I wanted to grow it and scale it and see what would happen. So out of the million, I put 40,000 into 4 Indian stocks. So I opened a brokerage account in India in '95, which was quite a convoluted process then because it was just, there was no demat or anything at that time. And one of the stocks basically went up 160x or 140x. It was like a 1.5 million.
Guys, how lucky do you think Mohnish Pabrai was? Like, how much was luck and how much was skill? He said he put money into he got $1 million from his selling his business. He put his money into 4 different stocks. How lucky do you think he was? Like, making these bets? Like, do you think it was more skill or luck? I think it was kind of like a mixture of both, because he did buy pretty good businesses. Like, he's gonna talk about it.
That I got out of $10,000. It was a huge home run. And when that happened in 2000, the other 3 stocks were either flat or down. They hadn't done much. And I said, okay, it is ordained and written in the Bible that if you get 100 bagger out of 4 bets, that is your quota. And so I thought, okay, this is fine. The other 3, there's nothing happening. I sold the other 3 stocks. Now, there was no good reason to sell the other 3 stocks. If I had just held on to the other 3 stocks, one of them actually went down 90%, and that, basically was a useless investment. So let's forget about that one. But there were 2 others in my portfolio that one went up from the time I bought it till today, 500x, and the other one went up about 150x. Now,
can you believe that 500x and 150x they went up? Like, bruh, can you imagine just watching that stock and you just see that thing, like, you just see your huge mistake, like, what, 10 years, 15 years later? Like, oh, bro. Oh, man, that's a killer.
To capture those 500x and 150x, I needed to have a 26-year holding period.
So to capture those gains, he needed a 26-year holding period. Tell me, to be honest, how many of you could hold that stock for that long? Like, 26 years. Can you imagine that? Like, that, whew. Man, that's the type of guts we're gonna need. And that's why, if you think of it like a retirement fund, you could do it. Potentially, you could hold it for that long.
Right? I need to be holding it till today. And actually, if I had read Nick Sleep in '94 instead of 2020, I would have had no difficulty holding those stocks. Because Nick asked a few questions. So the first question he asked is, what is the destination? What does this business look like 10 or 20 or 30 years? Right? So you can try and answer that question. The second question he asks is the business getting better? Okay, so as time goes on, is the business getting better? Is the moat getting wider? Is the moat getting deeper? And the third question is the valuation reasonable? And what he means is that, yeah, it can appear overvalued, that's okay, just not egregious. It just can't go crazy valuation. So these other 2 stocks that I sold, one was Kotak Mahindra, which is actually now my broker, and I had only invested out of $40,000. I only put $2,400 into Kotak. And I put the $2,400 into Kotak almost at the last second because they were my broker. And I had a lot of interaction with them, getting the account set up and talking to different entities, different people. And I was extremely impressed. I was very impressed with the people I was dealing with. And I said, this business, the brokerage business, is going to do nothing but grow. It's a great business, and these guys are really good guys. At that time, Kotak did not have their banking license. The banking license came 8 years after that. And that's when it went, as important. But there was no reason in 2000 to sell the stock because the business was definitely better than 2000 by 1095. And it was the reasonable valuation and destination still looked good. So that was done. The second business which I sold which I shouldn't have was Blue Dart, which is the FedEx of India. So I made two bets because the Indian postal system was so bad, that I knew that private parties had to step in to give people assurances that packages get there the next day or letters get there next day. So I made two bets. One was Skypack Courier and another was Blue Dart. They both were listed companies. So my bets were, one was on the broker banking, whatever happens there, and these two bets were on courier services, which were very greenfield, huge runways ahead. Skypack went down 90%, didn't go anywhere. And Blue Dart is up 150x. And FedEx later took a stake in it. So there was no reason to sell those things. There was no, it was, the destination looked good, the valuation reasonable. So what I've learned now from Nick Sleep is that basically buy great businesses run by great managements, but don't sweat the intrinsic value. So don't worry about, oh, this is worth 100 million and now it's trading 120. No. What you want to ask is, what is the destination? And the entrepreneur is not selling, so why are you selling? So, Rashid, this was a lot of fun. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the session.
So that's the end of this video. Just imagine that if he actually held on to all these stocks, he would never even need to invest again. If he had that Nick Sleep mentality of just holding these stocks, think of it as a long-term investment. So guys, that's what it is for this video. Like it, subscribe to my channel, share it. I'll get back to you in the next video. I am out.